Hey everybody. So I typed in the chat, but just so everyone knows, I've been battling some early pneumonia. Sucks. Uh, so makes it hard to really talk at length before going into like a coughing fit. So I'm gonna do my best to just answer questions in the chat, and hopefully can take care of anyone that has any burning questions. So. Uh, apologize ahead of time if I'm not going to talk too much, but maybe some people will enjoy that better anyway. um, yeah, pneumonia sucks, but it's good that we caught it early. So, um, yeah. So anyway, let's get back into this. Uh, Showing my level of commitment here to ZBrush that even in the midst of pneumonia, here I am. But really, no, it's not much expenditure of energy, so it's not like manual labor. So yeah, feel free to fire away if anyone has any questions. I'll do my best to get to you. Thanks, Chase. Yeah, working on it. It's crazy. I've never had pneumonia before. It blows. Hey Heidi. Yeah. I actually have a medical background, so I actually self-diagnosed before I went in to see the doctor, and it turned out I was 100% right. Unfortunately, um, as far as how many hours I've spent working on this, thank you for the kind words. I haven't really kept track. I mean, but it's definitely been, I don't know, altogether probably around 100, maybe a little less, maybe a little more. I'm not really sure, but um, so when I started this, it was a concept model while I was working on Lion King, for this sequence, and unfortunately, they hired me like the last month of production, so they loved the work. They loved all the storyboards I gave them for the redesign of the sequence when Mufasa comes to Simba, but what I designed was too complex for the last month of production. So they loved it, but I'm just, it's a bittersweet scenario where it didn't make it into the film, but all the feedback was good. So. You just started ZBrush, huh? Well, welcome to the family. It's an amazing tool, amazing piece of software. I wouldn't be where I'm at in my life altogether if it wasn't for ZBrush. Jace, I'm using the bend curve tool. So if you have a gizmo, you click your gear, and then right here you got bend curve. Click that, and it gives you a box. And then you can choose which axis you want to edit by determining, using these little cylinders here to determine which axis you want to operate on. And your orange cylinder increases or decreases your points, which allow you more points of manipulation. Sometimes you want less to do more gross, large movements. Other times you want more if you want to do a little bit more fine manipulation. You're welcome. Excuse me. So Heidi, you said you just started using ZBrush. What are you primarily using it for, or what are your thoughts? You said you're having fun. Let's hear what you're doing. Characters, environments, everything. Rafa, I'm not sure I know that guy or gal. But there are a lot of really talented ZBrush artists coming out of Brazil, that's for sure. Studying creatures, soon we'll start human anatomy. Currently working on a T-Rex. Haha, yeah. I'm a big dinosaur fan. If you see my site, if you look at my portfolio, it's just like I try to keep the dinosaurs to a minimum, but I'm known for my raptors. Yeah, yeah, definitely. Grissetti is probably the most famous out of there, for sure. He's earned it. Sorry. Just thought I'd mute it so you guys don't have to endure my coughing. Yeah. Heidi's saying how she saw that I have a biology background in medicine, and she said it's funny because she has a degree in psychology, but she doesn't want to use it anymore. I think it's funny and maybe kind of a shame a little bit that so many people go to university now and they get a degree in something they can't use or they don't want to use. Um, I think we're really in a crossroads here that the stubborn powers that be will not let progress forward for a while. But I really feel like now in the internet age, we're in a post university era. And a lot of schools are, in many ways, nearly obsolete for what they can offer versus what a person can learn on their own or just through online courses. Um, I think the tides are going to eventually change. They have to. Universities were founded during the industrial age, and it really made a lot of sense that then, you know, it was higher education. But now it feels a bit more like it's a lot of indoctrination and just teaching people a lot of basic information that you can learn on your own or that you will never need and you'll forget as soon as you take the test. And it's not really doing what it should, which is teaching people to critically think, problem solve, aspire to greatness, and to accomplish their dreams. You know, granted, I think it's how you apply yourself too, but I don't think you need university to do that. So, but it's a shame because a lot of people, a lot of places still require that 4-year degree, and I think it's just BS because I met a lot of dumb university graduates, and I met a lot of intelligent, very wealthy entrepreneurs who barely got their GED. So it's more about the person than it is about any institution. And I think it's, yeah, I think it's a little bit of a bummer that there's such a struggle right now with society and the perception of a university, the need of that education versus another way to filter people, basically, because that's really all it is a filtration system to see if can you take good orders and follow direction, and do you have some sort of baseline level of education, which is not guaranteed from a university. It's more about what you do. Education's what you do for yourself continually. It's not what a school's going to give you, really. An educated person is someone who reads a lot, studies, and retains useful information, helpful information. And that's not what a university helps you do. It can, but I don't know. I just think there's a lot that needs to be ratified, needs to be fixed when it comes to our universities and our education system in general. Thanks, Heidi. Appreciate the kind words. Wings are those are just nature, man. It's me following nature. It's me copying nature. So if you like the way I do it, then you like the way God made them. You like the way nature evolved them to be the way they are. But yeah, wings are beautiful. But to do them right, to do all the feathers and the positioning of them and all that, I had to do a little crash course in birds and wing structure and all their different feathers and their names, and I forget most of it now, but but it was interesting. I had to learn it to do tricot. It's this insanely elaborate 3D print that I did. And I still only have one prototype. I need to finish up, tweak it, and get copies of it over to Fumito Ueda and Takeshi Furukawa and Derek Espino. Those are the 3 guys that I promised I would get one to each of them, and I just haven't yet because I've been so busy since I completed that, and also was waiting for the Form 3 to come out because I saw one of my wings printed on a Form 3 and it blew away the versions I had on the Form 2, so it's insane. So now that I got the Form 3, I've just gotta get back to tricot, but it's one of those things that took so long to make and was such a labor of love, but it really kind of burned me out because I rushed to finish it for CES 2019. So I've just got to get back on the horse and finish it. But it's one of those things, I kind of go big or go home. I don't really do things half-assed, but that also means that they can take a while, ergo what you're looking at right now. But I also I'm one of those people that I do epics rather than a lot of short stories. I just like grand, big, giant nuclear things as opposed to tiny little cookies. But I've probably got to learn to get better at doing good, shorter, smaller pieces, I feel, because sometimes writing your opus and working on something giant and big can take a little too long and leave you less relevant, I think, or forgotten. So I think I've got to get better at speed and quality and less in the nitty-gritty, but that's a tough nut to crack. I'm a details guy, and I'm a stupid perfectionist. And when you have something like this open-ended, it's kind of like, I've been trying to give myself some tighter directions and areas to focus on so that I don't just spin my wheels, experimenting infinitely. But it's always, every project's different. When I have clear direction, I can just pound through something. But when it's like this, when it's just like, hey, do what you want, it's your world, I can tend to noodle too much, or just not be, super fast. It's quality over quantity. Jace is asking how I deal with creative block. I don't know, man. Honestly, I used to have that, and now I have such a backlog of things I want to do. I have such a backlog of pieces that I know will be like really knockout, beautiful, epic pieces that I just have a backlog. I have a back catalog of that now, so I just sort of try to ram through each one, and then along the way, while I'm doing that, some other cool project might come along, or I might have something else happen where it's like, oh, I've got to do that now, or whatever. So I don't really have much creative block anymore. Not to sound weird or arrogant or anything. It's just not. I don't know. I'm not a person who gets bored really almost ever. I've always got something creative that I want to do, or something that I can preoccupy myself with that I really enjoy, and that I think other people will too. So I don't know. Right now I'm just trying to catch up. But if I had to give advice for how to beat creative block, I'd say find what moves you, man. Find what excites you. I guess if you have a more specific question in that department, that might help you. If you just don't know, if you mean by creative block, like just what to do next, I mean, my answer is just find whatever you love, and find something new. Go out and buy magazines that have great art. I think of like Imagine FX or 3D World, 3D Artist. I always found great inspiration there. Go on ZBrush Central. Go to Massive Black if that's still a thing. I don't know. After a certain point, I used to buy all those magazines and go to all those forums, and the more my professional career took off, and the more that I enjoyed finding my own projects and my own passion, and within this passion, within art, the less I started really looking outside so much, and more at nature, and just more at letting the world and life kind of just bring things by me as it will, and just finding inspiration in random places, and inside myself, and just things I love, and dreams and ideas and visions I have for whatever, and then just running with it. So, Russian sub-commander on Twitch is asking, they're curious how I know when what you're doing in ZBrush is too small for a 3D printer. For example, some texturing will not show up. Well, it's all about knowing the scale that you're going to print at. That's the first thing. And then being familiar with the printer you're going to use. So if you are using a Form 3, you're going to get insane, almost like infinitesimal detail. So it's almost like no detail is too small for that machine. If you are unfamiliar with your 3D printers, or if you're sending it out to be printed at somewhere at Shapeways, I would almost say you should make it a sample piece and get that printed first if you really want to get serious about retaining quality and detail. To know the scale that your object is going to be at, and then work to that. But I would always say that more detail is better than less, because it's like even in visual effects when we work. I remember I was working on Westworld, and I was asking my art director, like, how far do they want me to go with some of this? And they're like, as anatomically correct in every single way as possible. So I was doing some appendages. And there's this arm in this great scene, this samurai fight in season 2. And because they knew I had my medical background, they were like, you're doing this. And I was like, awesome. And so I had to do all the skin and the bones and the muscles and the nerves and the connective tissue and the porosity of the bone, and just every micro detail that you could possibly think of. And it was awesome. It was fun to dive in there and just get all that detail. But it also felt like overkill because I'm like, it's right in the camera's face though. So it is like, it's like this right in the camera. So I knew it was going to be seen a lot, but it was also, going to be match moved. Sorry if this is too loud. I maybe move that right a little bit. Keep seeing it spike red. It's also, all right, there we go. It was also going to be match moved to an actor's arm that obviously was still attached to his body. So it was shaking around a lot, and there was motion blur. But you still will, if you look at, there's some motion blur, but it's not like he was in full sprint or anything. So it's like he's holding his arm in pain. So there's some jiggle, but it's not like, he's not doing this. So there came a point where we realized the amount of detail we were putting into the bone, into the body parts, still translated even to motion blur, to slight motion blur, because an object that's really smooth will look different in blur, in gentle blur, than an object that's highly detailed and has many different colors and shadows and texture. So again, all that to say that I think always go with a little bit more detail than less, because you'll be impressed by any high quality printer will pick that up. And also the question is, what kind of printer are you using? Are you using an SLA printer? Are you using a PolyJet printer? Are you using a cheaper FMD or FFF, where it's kind of harder to get some of that detail? You've really got to calibrate your machine well and go for high layer count. So like really tight, thin layers. Sorry. Kyle's just chiming in, guys. If you didn't see it, he's letting us know that they have a free update to ZBrush 2020.1. Sweet. Thanks, Kyle. I have to do that myself. I got to upgrade my 2020. Arif is asking how I'm doing. I'm fighting some pneumonia, but otherwise, I'm good. I said I was going to reply in the chat, but I don't know. I'm hacking it right now, talking. Russian subcommander is asking, would it be easier to do some small lines and balls, large to small, test 3D printed from ZBrush, then import that mesh into ZBrush to use as a guide for the current project? Small lines and balls. I'm not sure exactly what you mean. You could always do, like I said, just I think more of like whatever shape you're going to work on, maybe even just like cut a chunk out of that. And, or if you wanted to have a test, create an object like a cube or a sphere. I would say maybe like not a sphere, like a dome, because you want a flat bottom usually, or if you're doing, depends what printer you're using. Create a, some basic like stone, almost kind of arbitrary shape. Sculpt in large details, and then sculpt in incredibly tiny, infinitesimal little micro details, and then send it to print. Like make a 1 inch by 1 inch cube or a 3 inch cube or whatever, hollow it out, and print it and see what you get, and then use that as a basis. Then you can look and compare at the digital version of that and your physical version, and you can see, compare and contrast what came out, what didn't, and then you know what your range is. Then you know you're not to go as far if you don't need to. If you're concerned about, because adding more detail will add a little bit more time to your prints depending on the type of printer you have. Again, FDM versus SLA versus DLP versus PolyJet. They're all going to vary in different ways. Jace is working on a character in ZBrush, and every time he tries to color pick, it's not returning the right color. Yeah, there can be a couple different reasons. Make sure you don't have any filters on, like any post-processing filters. Make sure that your what else is there? Yeah, like in this case, make sure that you don't have your poly frame on, or your poly colors. Make sure that you don't have a texture map on unless you really want to take your color from the texture map. Yeah, no worries, Russian sub commander. You're welcome. Yeah, Jace, I'm not sure exactly why it's doing that, but I've had that happen before to me too. Make sure that your object has solid colors and that it's in poly paint, not on a texture. I don't know. You got to explain your situation. Like, do you have anything else turned on? Do you have like Lightbox with any images in front of your, like, superimposed transparent in front of your character? I don't know. It's weird that it's not picking up their color. That means that there's something that what also it could be is if your RGB, make sure your RGB intensity is all the way up when you're trying to apply that color again. Because if it's lower, you're going to get diminishing returns. Also, your poly paint mode, make sure it's in 1. So there's a bunch of things you need to check. So it's sorry, it's not a really simple answer or clean cut solution, but there's a whole checklist you kind of got to go down. So don't panic and don't get frustrated. Know there is a solution, and it's probably just something you haven't thought to check or didn't realize was changed. First rule, don't panic. Second rule, save your work often and incrementally, meaning create version 1, version 2, version 3, version 25. Eventually delete the older ones so you don't like fill up your hard drive with needless versions, but save incrementally, because sometimes you might need to go back and look at an older version and realize what you did right and or what was not changed in that version versus whatever version you're working in currently. So think about that. Let's just try to adjust the camera there a little bit. Sorry. I'm going to Google quickly some cat lion paws. I love Google Images. I'll show you guys what I'm looking at quick. Just kind of looking for some nice reference. It's funny, type in paws and they want to give you the pads of their paws the most. It's crazy how big some of these guys are. Amazing. Keep thinking I might want to do like, I don't know, something between that and the other one that had the crossed paws, because I love how they do that in nature a lot, and it looks so nice, looks so proper. But then I don't want to ruin the majesty of his stance either. I don't want to quite do it like that either. There we go, there's the other one. I don't know. We'll see. I'll mess around. Arif is asking about mirroring. It's pretty simple. You want to mirror something, you want to work on half of it. Let's see. I'll show you quick here. So... all right. So starting the model with half side, and then you want to make it mirror and merge it. So are you talking about like you have half a model, like literally half, and you just want to like mirror and weld it? So like something like this, like you got half your model and you want to duplicate it and weld it. So let's see here, delete higher, delete hidden. All right, well, here's your model. You've got some sculptural detail, whatever that may be, and you've done half of it, and now you just want to mirror it over. See, I have a lot of this stuff already out here saved. I'm trying to remember where all this is now in the menus. I think that's an edit geometry or topology. I mean, yeah. So you go to your geometry tab here in tools, and then you want to come down here to mirror and weld. You got to choose your proper axis. Remember, RGB is X, Y, Z. So your red axis is your X axis. You are in the positive here. So that should work nicely, I believe. If you just click mirror and weld, bam, you've got equal sides. But you also have to make sure that you do have things flat and they're almost intersecting each other. Because here, if I smooth this out, I can tell that has some weird issues there because it wasn't a perfect straight line down the middle. There were some slight discrepancies there, so you got these weird kind of geo going on. You can tell it looks a little thicker and weird there, so you got that. So to avoid that, there's a couple ways you could fix this, but what we're going to do is undo. Oh, weird. Is that where I thought it was? Whoop, sorry. Just hit that. All right, let's try this again. Let's move this inward a little bit. Try mirror weld again. There we go. Yeah, so you'll just notice sometimes there might be some weirdness along the midline if excuse me, if you've got your one side a little wonky and pulled away from center. So, you know, helps to check your model when when you have half of it. Make sure that it's all coming over the center line. You know, the center Z line in this case, the blue line, or Y, I guess would be the vertical of that. So, there you go, sir. I hope that works for you. Hey, you're welcome, man. This thing's in the way. Sorry, my mic is being a bit of a problem here. Let's just move this over this way. You guys can still hear me okay, right? Looking at this, I'm wondering if it might be simpler to take, I don't know, what are the other line bits I have here? This is the anatomical line, but it's almost too strung out down there. It might be more work to bring that into the right pose than it would be just to resculpt what I got going on down there. I am Echo Alexander on YouTube. What's up? Arif, I'm not sure what you're asking. How can I get the canvas showing? Man, Refa in 2019. Are you talking about your canvas, or little micro canvas over here, and your dude over here? Because that's exclusive to 2020. And why haven't you upgraded to 2020? So because somebody's using a cracked version. Buy your software, people. Then you don't have to worry about problems. Heidi's asking, let's see here. Heidi's asking, talking about 3D, how important is it to develop your own art style? We know that in traditional art, it's important to have your own style, creating a signature. Well, 3D's a bit of a different animal. You can always have your own art style as a sculptor. I mean, that's natural. It's natural for any art, for any artist in the arts. But I mean, to get to your question, how important is it to have your own style in 3D? I mean, I guess it depends. Do you want to be known as someone who has a specific style, and that will limit you, or do you want to be known as someone who's just an expert sculptor and can do almost any style? You know, it's what do you want, really? I would say if you put yourself in a stylized category, if you're going to go very cartoony, you're only going to be looking at jobs that will be like Pixar, DreamWorks, animation gigs, cartoony, and you will, I wouldn't say you'll never, but you won't be immediately offered any work in hyper-realistic departments, you know, so you won't be working on photorealistic work because your portfolio won't reflect that. Ultimately, I think your question should be, you know, what do you want to do? And then your portfolio should reflect that. Do the work for yourself right now that you would want to be paid to do professionally, and do it exceptionally well. And don't compare yourself to your peers really from school or anywhere. Look at the best in the world and then make work that competes with that, because that is your real competition. Your competition is not your peers in school or online somewhere. It's really, I mean, it could be in some cases, but most of the time it's if they're getting paid to work on films or projects you want to work on. But look at the best in the world and make work that can compete or is better than that. And that's when you know you're in the right department. But I think that's really the important question is what kind of work do you want to do? And can you do it? And if you can, or if you can't, work hard to do so, because you can do it. It's just a matter of putting in the hours, man. Just putting in the time, the effort, the hard work. There are no shortcuts to hard work. People say work smarter, not harder. You got to do both, man. There definitely are moments where you can work smarter and not as hard, but there's no shortcuts for that. And I mean, when it comes to knowing your anatomy, excuse me, to knowing what great artwork is, you know, you've just got to put in the hours to learn how to be able to master the software you're using. Yeah, I mean, in traditional art, there are definitely like styles that you'll see from different artists, but um, yeah, I think that's I don't know. It's 3D, like I said. It's a different animal. So it all depends what you really want. Where's your heart? What really sets your mind and heart on fire? What projects would you love to be a part of, or that you really, would love the opportunity to work on? Do work that's in that department. Create beautiful pieces, masterpieces that reflect your love for certain properties or certain styles. You know, that's what you got to do. You've got to show the people who you'd want to work for or that you'd like to work with that you are a master of X, whatever you'd love to do. At least show them that you're capable of doing similar work. So that's my 2 cents. Larry Friend has sent the classic robot emoji on Twitch. I'm not sure what that means, but cool. Yeah, it's interesting you say that about 3D artists learning to study a little bit of 2D art. I should do more than study a little of 2D art. I think 2D art is kind of foundational to 3D art in a lot of ways. I mean, it's important to know how to sculpt with real clay, but it's also important to know how to draw, to know how to train your eyes and your mind to replicate what you really see, not what you think you see. That's what they, excuse me, that's what they teach you in drawing in the early on drawing classes, and it's super fundamental. Perception, perceiving reality as it is and not as you think it is. And then, yeah, and understanding styles and flow. You know, that's something that can be a challenge for me in some ways, but I feel like I get a pretty good understanding of 2D art in general. I've always been given whenever that's a key too. That's a struggle and a discussion we have at work sometimes. It's important to get orthographics for your 3D models. Any 2D artist, any concept artist should worth their salt should know to give you solid orthographics: front, side, back, top, bottom. At least front, side, and 3/4 and back. Um, that helps any 3D artist, you know. And any good 2D artist also needs to learn how to think in 3D. They have to be able to conceive of a character or an object in all angles and accurately as much as they can, as much as possible. It's always frustrating when you get a character or an object drawn for you, and you get a front view and a side view, and maybe that's it, and they don't line up very well. Like, they maybe line up in height and like where the eyes are and whatever, but they haven't thought about what it will look like in 3D, and so then there's this push and pull then of the art director saying, well, make it look like this, and then the 3D artist will often be like, well, it doesn't work from both angles, man. Like, you're gonna have to make a compromise. Either you want it to look right from the front, or you want it to look right from the side, or a happy medium, you know, which is usually what it should be. But yeah, so I think there's definitely a good push and pull for what you got to do for translating 2D to 3D. It can be a challenge for sure, you know. When you have a lot of time, it's less of a challenge. But when you have a deadline, you've got to make sure that people are delivering on all fronts properly. Excuse me. Heidi's saying it's quite clear. If you know how to read a reference, you'll know how to make a 3D of that. Yeah, 3D model. Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's you can do the best you can with what you're given, you know. But like I said, the more views you have of something, pardon me, the better your 3D will be, and the faster and easier it'll be for you to churn something out. if anyone's curious, probably not, but if anyone's curious about what I'm listening to, I will share the link. I'm a big electronic music fan, and Paul Oakenfold's like the granddaddy of techno, trance, house, all that good stuff. So if you want to listen along, here you go. I'm actually specifically, oh man, I'm like 3/4 the way through. So an hour 26 in. So if anyone likes techno, good trance, good mix, there you go. Paul Oakenfold's got a weekly show. It's awesome. Kimo GKI, hello. On Twitch. So, Voodoo by Interactive Noise. Is that a band? I'm assuming a song. I'll have to check it out. Speaking of movies, I actually recently saw Doctor Sleep. I missed it when it was in theaters, but I heard it was decent. So, and I like Ewan McGregor, and I love Rebecca Ferguson, and there's a bunch of good actors in there. So I was just like, hell yeah, let's just see what it's like. I watched it last night, and man, I liked it a lot. I gotta say, for a follow up, for a direct sequel to The Shining, and actually, I agree with Stephen King. I like the miniseries of The Shining a hell of a lot more than the movie with Jack Nicholson. I think the miniseries is better, scarier, just more well done overall. Um, yeah, I thought Doctor Sleep was legit. Yeah, it could have been a little bit better here and there, sure. Like no movie's perfect, but if you like a good thriller, semi horror, um, it's pretty good. I gotta say, I was impressed. I really liked it. So anyway, random movie recommendation for any horror fans out there or Stephen King fans. Um, I actually rented it off of Amazon and liked it so much I ordered the Blu-ray. So yeah. All right, Heidi, I'm listening to Interactive Noise now for a sec. Let's see what you got. It's funny that title Voodoo. It makes me think of Lords of Acid. I love their instrumental stuff, man. Voodoo 2, it's a crazy album. Didn't care for the lyrics too much because they're pretty fucked up, but the instrumentals are badass. I'm like an old school guy, I guess, too. I mean, I love Crystal Method and Prodigy. I miss that kind of music, man. I feel like it's just there's not a lot of it much anymore, where they're making stuff that's hard and the Matrix soundtrack, that kind of quality, Lunatic Calm and the Propeller Heads, like stuff it's got that hard, tight edge, but it's really sharp techno and has a really strong melody. That's why I turn to things like Paul Oakenfold and other shows, or I'm trying to find where that's being made now. This has a good sound though, I gotta say. 22 hours 90 39 by Danger is pretty good too. Cool, thanks Heidi. Appreciate the recommendations. If anyone else out there has similar taste in music, I mean, I'm extreme. Like, I love this kind of stuff, and then I love like full orchestra, 20th century classical, true classical. Um, I think there's some sort of weird cross pollination there though, of like really complex techno that's well composed, and like full orchestra that's well composed. I feel like there's a certain level of musical sophistication that really can come in there in those extremes, that I don't think you really find in other genres as much. I don't think of musical complexity when I listen to country or rap. Definitely not rap. Rap is overall basal. I can't stand most rap, but I think there's a certain level of musical sophistication in complex, well done techno, electronica, and of course orchestra is the highest form of that art. I think still full orchestra composition, classical is always going to be in my mind the superior art form of music forever. I don't think anything else can compete. But it's cool when they mix orchestra with some electronic sounds. I think that can be really badass too. The Tron soundtrack was pretty cool. I thought it was fun. I feel like they didn't push it as hard as they could musically, but I like Daft Punk, and I thought they did a pretty good job overall. It was badass seeing that movie in the theaters in a giant IMAX screen the first time I went to see it. That was a lot of fun. Again, not a perfect movie, but it was fun. I had a good time. Alright, so let's see what else you got, Heidi. You got 22 hours 39 by Danger. But yeah, I gotta say, it's got that cool, rhythm. I like it. I want to hear it go further now. I kind of wish they'd keep going and turn up the speed a bit, but it's good. It's got a good methodical kind of sound to it. It's one of those songs that seems like you can get in the zone and to sort of zone out and get in the groove. I like stuff that it's explosive after a while too. I mean, it's great to work out to and hit the gym with, go for a run. Stuff that builds progressive techno, I guess, in some ways, or things that really, amp up. And I love it when they transpose a melody with different instruments. One instrument's carrying it for a while, and then you have the next chorus come, and the next verse, and then it's like they transpose it and carry it and sort of elevate it to, I guess they change octaves, but they also kind of amp up the energy. Again, it's like musical intelligence. I think those who I had a strong classical musical upbringing when I was a kid, So I've learned to analyze music in a decent way. I wouldn't say I'm an expert by any means, but um, I understand music theory, and I'm really picky about my music in some ways because of that. And I can sort of break down why I like it or why I think it's good versus other pieces. So maybe that makes me a little bit of a music snob, but at least I know what I like, and I can sort of describe why. And I can hopefully in the future when I'm doing my own films and work with composers, it'll give us a bit more common dialogue and the ability to speak the same language a little bit more and be able to articulate better what I'm looking for and how to convey the right how to convey the right emotions. All right, let's see if this quick saves. Got to crash. Fuck. God damn it. You never know. ZBrush can just quit for the most weird reasons. Alright, let's see. Hopefully it got that tool. Yeah, looks like it's back where it was. Thank God. Alright. Back in business. Whew. That was scary. And now to follow my own advice. Save, save, save. Whoa, alright. Heidi, definitely not expert, but better than all of us casual listeners. Haha, that's great. About movies, big fan of drama movies. Movies like Fight Club, Seven, Cyberpunk, Blade Runner, Ghost in the Shell, yeah. Although the movie is pretty meh. War, European movies, not a big fan of horror movies, but looking forward to watch Doctor Sleep. Enjoyed The Shining. Didn't expect the plot twist when you first watched it. Cool. Yeah, I would say drama. I'm not sure if you meant drama movies and then you meant examples of Fight Club and Seven, because I would definitely put those both in more of a thriller category than drama. I mean, they're dramatic, but there's definitely like Seven's hardcore, like I would say horror thriller. Fight Club is more of a psychological thriller slash comedy, really action comedy. But whatever. Yeah, Blade Runner. The first Blade Runner I thought was decent, but boring. Honestly, at times it would. I think that was during the. It was still coming off of an era where filmmakers didn't really get pacing down just right, and so it felt like Blade Runner's a little too deliberately slow at times for me and too quiet. It could definitely use some tightening up, in my opinion. But it was still a cool vision of the future for sure. And then the new Blade Runner I loved. I mean, again, not a perfect movie. Not a great representation of women in a lot of ways for sure. I think it could have been improved, but overall, as a work of art, it was awesome. I thought it was pretty cool. It definitely carried a certain mood, and I think it corrected the aspects that were lacking in the original Blade Runner that I just mentioned. So yeah, I think the Blade Runner 2049 was pretty awesome. I like movies that have a strong sense of mood too. I mean, they're not my favorites, but I mean, I really enjoy that. It's something different. Still, some of my favorites. I've said this before, just for those who may not know. Number one is Jurassic Park, just because it was so smart, so different, and it had all the elements: great soundtrack, amazing visual effects, great story. I was a huge Michael Crichton fan, and will forever be. I love intelligent stories that make you think, bring in real science and medicine and other technology, and throw people into an amazing, unique scenario where you're both kind of being educated, you're educating the audience, while you're also entertaining them. So you kind of ramp them up, you elevate their brain, basically. You're educating them and taking them on a wild ride. So So Jurassic Park, number one. Number two would be Matrix. Love the Matrix. First one, just freaking phenomenal. And overall, and again, not perfect, but I love it. And Interstellar. And then if I had to list any more, it would be like Back to the Future, first one especially. Indiana Jones, Last Crusade. The Island by Michael Bay. Terminator 2, Aliens. I know everyone loves the first one. I'm like, the first one's okay. I like the second one more, personally. I like a little bit more action. Yeah, so anyway. I mean, there's so many more films I love. There's so many that I enjoy. I'm a huge movie collector, a huge movie buff overall. There's very few famous films or well-known films I haven't seen. I kind of see, I wouldn't say everything, because there's definitely certain things I just don't care for that I find objectionable, but there's a lot. There's a lot of classics and a lot of well-known ones that I'll enjoy. Another classic, Rear Window. I love Hitchcock. I like Rear Window. I like films that make you think, though. I really do. I really like cerebral stimulation. Kyle keeps hitting us up with that bot on Twitch. Keeps reminding everybody there's a 2021.1 update. Another great film I saw, I don't know if I mentioned this last time, is 1917. Awesome movie. I think it's my movie of 2019 for sure. Just loved it. Really moving. Amazing how they made it look like, I would say really two takes, because there's a moment where the character blacks out, and so they black out the screen, so it's an obvious hard cut. But everything else, I mean, it's just, the whole movie's awesome. Very powerful, very emotional. I cried. Got a couple points. It was pretty heavy. Plus, I have friends in the military, and I've always admired those who are brave enough to defend us. And I've seen people die. I used to work in an ER for a couple years, so when people do a really good job of portraying death on screen, it hits hard, for sure. Plus, I just like feeling something from a film, you know? I mean, a lot of times I think we go to films and are disappointed, or they're just mediocre. And, I want a good gut punch. I want a good twist. I want a good impact one way or the other. I want to feel something when you go to the movies. I don't want to just walk out going, meh, which is far too often the case. Where everything's just fine, it's just passable. I want a visceral experience. I want to really be knocked out, which is hard to do these days because so much is so formulaic and so many studios are so risk adverse. It's kind of disgusting. So the Arrival, that was a great recent film too. I thought that was pretty impressive for what it was. I enjoyed that a lot. Again, good emotional impact, very intriguing, thinking film. With a heart. I thought Amy Adams and Jeremy Renner did a great job. And the artistry that was involved in those aliens and their design was great too. Oh man, it's terrible. I feel bad. The artist, I know the artist who designed them, and we've talked back and forth a bunch, and I really respect him. He's a total veteran in the industry, and I can't think of his name right now because I'm so tired. But he knows who he is. You know who he is. He's great. But yeah, it was unique creature design, and some of his earlier designs I thought were even better, but they weren't picked, unfortunately. But They were cool. I was glad they went with something truly alien and like had a element of like a whale kind of to it, I guess, in some ways, but also like it's just like nothing we've really seen before. Exactly, it's very different, and yet sympathetic in some ways when certain things happen. If you haven't seen The Arrival, I highly recommend it. You should check it out. Parasite was Artisan's favorite for 2019. Yeah, I thought Parasite was good, but I don't really want to watch it again. I don't know. Um, yeah, just personal preference. I like Bong Joon-ho, however you say his name. That director is awesome though. One of my favorite films by him is Okja on Netflix. If you haven't seen it, you should totally watch it. It's awesome. Again, gut punch. Good ending though, but man, it's a powerful movie. It's OJKA is how you spell it, and it's a great adventure, and it has a great positive message in it, and it's not preachy. It's just a great story, great movie. Highly recommend it. Also, The Host, Boone's other movie that I really love was The Host. Really good. I like this both more than Parasite actually, but I get the interesting commentary of Parasite. But it's just such a crazy wild ride, and then the ending is just kind of depressing. And there's a lot of sad moments to it too, where it's like I don't know that I want to watch it again. Like, it's just so dark, and it's funny at times, but it's dark and sad. uh, War movies mostly subjective in one way or another. Always close to one side. Yeah, war movies. Yeah, I mean, it's obviously. I don't know. I mean, I don't. Yeah, they're subjective, but I'm not sure what you're saying. I mean, when it comes to like World War One, World War Two, it's pretty clear the Nazis were in the wrong. So, you know, they deserve to get fucked up and crushed, defeated. So, I mean, if you're, I'm not sure what side you're saying there. It's like there's only one right side. The rest of the world versus the Nazis. So, in that case, I think we should all be on the right side, which is anti-Nazis, anti-Hitler. Speaking of which, also another great 2019 movie was was Jojo Rabbit. Jojo Rabbit was awesome. Again, very emotional, very powerful, very funny too. Like Taika Waititi crushed it. I thought Jojo Rabbit was great. Hey Heidi, do you have You have any images of your T-Rex online anywhere? It'd be fun to check it out. Yeah, What We Do in the Shadows was a great one. Oh man, I love that movie. It's so ridiculously funny. And the effects were actually really good. I thought they did some really great special effects, visual effects in that movie that I didn't expect, and it was hilarious. Yeah, if you like Taika stuff, you'll really like Jojo Rabbit. It's good. It's really good. Catches you off guard with the gut punches too, but man, they're good. And if anyone else is interested in like sort of any really interesting uh, World War I info, there was this great film that had like a really kind of soft release 2 years ago around Christmas, and it was called "They Shall Never Grow Old," I believe, or "We Shall Never Grow Old," something like that. I think it's "They Shall Never Grow Old." Peter Jackson helmed it, and they kind of de-aged a whole bunch of footage and cleaned it up, fixed all the frame rates, and then actually added color and sound to tons of footage from World War One, and it's amazing. They even figured out this incredible way of determining what one of the speeches was from a letter that a lieutenant or sergeant, whatever, was giving to his troops, and it's just an amazing documentary. Something I need to buy on Blu-ray actually, but yeah, highly recommend it. I think it's what. Let me get the title right so I don't misguide anybody. I think it's "We Shall Never Grow Old" or "They Shall Never Grow Old." Yeah, let's see. Yeah, "They Shall Not Grow Old." So there you go. Check that out when you guys have time. Pretty amazing. "They Shall Not Grow Old." I saw it in theaters with my adopted uncle, and it was awesome. Sorry, guys. Artie Zan's asking if I've seen See You Up There. No, I haven't. Is it a comedy or a dramedy? Is it about death? Is it like See You Up There, like See You in Heaven or something? Or give me the elevator pitch, please. It's in the same category with The Fall. Ah, The Fall. That very artistic movie about a little girl in a hospital and then like her imagination, fantasy of all that. Is that the movie you're talking about? My sister introduced me to that movie years ago, and she loved it. I thought it was pretty good. Cool. Artie Zan. I'll have to check it out. All right, guys. I think it's about time. Pause. Yeah, I'm working on the pause. Uh, yeah, Artisan's saying there's a bunch of French movies that not enough introduced to the rest of the world. Yeah, I agree. There's some great international movies out there for sure. Yeah. Um, but yeah, it's about time, guys. And I'm still needing to recuperate from this lovely pneumonia. So I'm going to call it here, save, and say thank you for joining me yet again. Making progress on this guy, and gonna keep trying to nail this before the next stream, so that hopefully one of these next streams will be the last one for this, and you guys can see some of the actual 3D printing process. I'll try to see what I can do about streaming that, and yeah, we'll be moving on here soon, I think, and doing some new stuff from me. So anyway, thanks again. And I wish you guys all the best. Thanks for the conversation and for hanging out. Take care. Thanks. See you guys. Thanks, Heidi. Yeah. If you guys have any links to your work or portfolios, please feel free to send them quick. I can hang out here for a second if you guys want to share anything work-wise. Heidi, I'd love to see your T-Rex, by the way, if you have anything online. Thanks, Arif. Or not. If no one wants to share, that's cool too. Anyway, you guys can find me on social media. On Instagram. You'll say my T-Rex. Are you okay? You'll say my T-Rex when it's done. Cool. All right. That's IG. And Twitter. And then Facebook's just my name. It's Facebook / I think it's like, I think that's it. I think if you go to facebook.com/Daniel.DeLeon, you can find me. So, all right, guys, take care, and I'll see you in 2 weeks. Peace.